here we are today, and we are continuing our topic this month, all about the topic of personal growth and how it correlates to your income growth. And as we've mentioned in our other episodes or not episodes, our lives, we talk about this important concept because your income, it doesn't matter what your technical skills are, your income can always exceed your technical ability. It can never exceed your personal growth. And it's one thing to master technical skills, but it's mastering yourself that's the most important thing to creating income and to creating that exponential growth, right? Because, a lot of times you'll see really, really talented people, really, really skilled people, incredibly intelligent people that get to a certain level of income and then they never grow, or they start a business and they're really, really good at what they do. Like they might be the best designer or photographer or coach, or they might be an awesome accountant or architect, and yet they don't have any business, and it has nothing to do with their skills. And other times you'll see people who have little to no skills, and they do really well. And sometimes they don't even have skills in what their business is about. Like, for instance, for me, video isn't my skill, right? But my business is based on video, but that's because I have a team to help me. And you can probably tell this morning, I've set my own tech up, and so my camera's not that great, but whatever, right? Like we just get out there and we do it, and we still keep going past whatever our technical skills are. So why is that though? So why is it that really talented, skilled, intelligent people sometimes don't make a lot of money? It's because that personal growth piece isn't there. And that applies whether they have a corporate job or they're in their own business. I mean, you think about a corporation, like you'll sometimes see people who start out at a certain level, and you might see two people in a mailroom, and one might eventually make that whole leap all the way from mailroom to CEO, and another just kind of stays in a lower level entry position the rest of their life. And it has really nothing to do with skill or ability. It has to do with the internal growth, and it's the same with entrepreneurs and why some struggle and why some catapult. It's all about this personal growth piece. And so today we are talking about risk. I'm going to be looking to the side occasionally because I want to be making sure I can get your comments real time and talk to you if I can. So this piece today about risk is a really important one because I think this is one of the areas of growth that is really, really important. We're taught, and we're not really going to go too much into the types of risk. We're going to cover some of that today, but we're really going to talk about why the personal growth piece is important on the risk side of things, because we all know as entrepreneurs that there is risk, right? And to grow your income, you can't be doing the same thing. Like I talked to somebody the other day, and I had a post about this on my personal page. And at the end of the day, what this woman wanted to do was to take her income from about, $1,000 a month and get it up to $20,000 a month. And when I started asking her about different things that she could do with her business, she's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's too much of a risk. I'm not going to do that. And, there was no way I could help her because she wanted to keep doing exactly what she was doing and just hoping she could do more of it. But the thing is, if what she was doing was working, she would have been at the income goal that she wanted, right? And so taking those risks and taking those leaps are the reasons that they're the reasons people can really have exponential growth if they're willing to take that risk. So why don't we take risk, right? It's the fear of losing. We fear losing out. We might lose money, we might lose love, we might lose affection, and we have a natural desire to stay safe. That's we're born that way, and our ego and our family and how we're raised. And my mentor talks a lot about the middle class mindset, where we look for what's safe, right? We don't want to get hurt. We don't want to lose something. We don't want to end up a bag lady on the street. So we look at all of these things, and then we don't take a risk. And when we don't take a risk, we don't get a different result. And so this piece about risk is really important. Like if you were to look at, let's say, for example, you might look at an airline, right? And you look at the owners of the airline or the shareholders of the airline can sometimes make a lot more money than the pilots. And the pilots are the ones that have the skill and the technical ability, and they take lives into their, they have hundreds of lives in their hands. They have a very important job in running the airline and life safety for people. And, they certainly take risk, but they don't take personal risk in the sense that they they risk themselves in the sense that they know their craft, but they don't go outside that. And so that's why the pilots, as well as they're paid, the owners still make more money because they've taken the risk. They've invested the capital. They've gone up to compete against other airlines. They've gone and done other things. And so when you look at that from, and that can be for any business, right? Where you have very talented employees, and the reason they're not making lots of income, I mean, you're paid well when you're talented if you're employed somewhere, right? But you're still never going to make as much as the owner eventually has the opportunity to make. And that's because it's not because somebody isn't skilled. It's an entrepreneur sees an opportunity and they are going to hire the team that they need. They are going to invest in the marketing that they need. They are going to take a risk with their reputation, right? Like they're willing to have people laugh at them and think they're crazy. I mean, I think some of the most successful entrepreneurs, it kind of directly correlates with how crazy they're willing to let people think they are, right? And that they're willing to fail publicly and face humiliation, and they don't feel humiliated, right? But they face that, and those are the type of things that other people don't do because they're afraid. And so this piece about risk, I think, is one of the biggest ones we can look at as entrepreneurs and ask ourselves, like, well, what is it that I'm not willing to risk, and why am I not willing to risk it? Because sometimes it's just on the other side of it. Is it, you don't want to walk through that door. Like, is it an investment of money? Is it a decision? Is it someone's approval? Is it your reputation? What don't you want to risk? And then ask yourself, why don't I want to risk this? Like, what's really holding me back here? If I were to take this risk, and this is kind of what a lot of what successful entrepreneurs do, they look at the risk and they look at, well, what's the worst that could happen and what's the best that could happen. And they play this. I mean, some of them don't even look at what the worst that can happen. They just figure it's kind of implied. The worst that can happen is I lose everything and I sleep under a bridge and I'm fine with that, right? They don't even go into that, but it's just kind of implied in there. But what comes through that is when you kind of understand what's the worst that can happen and realize that I'm strong enough to handle this. I can absorb the loss. I can bounce back. I can create something else. I trust me. This is where the personal growth piece comes in, because then and this is, we're going to be talking about this next week when we're on our morning meeting about the radical personal responsibility as it relates to personal growth and income growth. But that's kind of where, but we'll take it back to the risk piece. Those are the entrepreneurs that really do fully take accountability for everything that they have. And so they know that if it doesn't go right, they can make a different decision. They can, bounce back from it. Like, I mean, you can always make more money. What you can't get is more time. So, I mean, how many years would you want to waste trying to build your business up when all it would take is an investment to invest in the right marketing, or invest in the right mentoring, or invest in the right team member who could shortcut 2 to 3 years off your time so you could be making money sooner. And then when you're making money sooner, you have freedom sooner and you have more time to do things sooner. You have the money to do things you want sooner, right? And yes, there's a risk. There's always a risk of loss of capital. But that's just inherent in business. And so that's the difference, right? It's those who are willing to take that risk, to work through that risk, to mitigate that risk, right? Like, let's just say, like, take this person, for example, who wanted to make 20 times her income, but she wanted to still work as a freelancer. She didn't want to open up her own business. She wanted people to hire her. And there was a very, very limited pool that she was going to. This market, I mean, it was a tiny, tiny, tiny market. And, when I said to her, have you thought about opening your own business and expanding out to these other markets who could also use your services instead of so tightly niche that you only have the tiniest pool to pick from? Have you thought about doing that? She's like, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to deal with those people. I don't want to take that risk. I don't want to put that money on the line. I don't want to do this. And I said, well, how are you going to get 20 times more business from the pond you're already fishing in? And she's like, well, there has to be a way. So we, again, examined what she could do differently, but everything that came up that she could do different required a risk. It required her doing something differently. And she didn't want to do it because her ego and her mind and, it's just our conditioning. And this is not a judgment. This is just an example of what we all go through. wants to stay safe, wants to stay with what we know. But we can't, if we stay with what we know, then we're going to keep getting what we know, right? And so if what you know, everything you know till this point has got you the results that you have till this point, it's not going to get you different results. I was speaking to another entrepreneur a couple of weeks ago where she said, she really wanted to make a 5 times leap in her income, and it was totally doable because she's incredibly skilled. However, she really wanted to just keep doing what she was doing. She didn't want to do something different because she was afraid to risk the money. And what that comes down to, if you're afraid to risk your money, is a lack of belief in yourself. If you're afraid to risk people laughing at you, it's a lack of belief in yourself. And that's where the personal growth piece comes in. When you can have that Teflon skin where it doesn't matter what people say, where you have such a strong belief in yourself that you know that, yeah, you know what? Failing forward is inevitable, right? I saw on Twitter the other day, Clinton Anderson, he is one of the people I follow in the natural horsemanship world. And if you go onto his Twitter, and I think he had on his Facebook page as well, and he was talking about horsemanship. And he was saying that you have to take risks. If you don't take risks, you are not going to succeed as a horseman. You have to be willing to fall off that horse to be a better rider. And I love that. And then so I went and retweeted that out because I thought it was brilliant. And I said, entrepreneurship and horsemanship they're so similar, right? And what I said is falling off my horse made me a better rider. Because why? Because I learned that A, I won't die. So B, I can try other things. And if I fall, I know I can get up again. And my riding has gone through the roof because of that. Failing in my business has made me a better business owner, right? We've had launches that have completely crashed and burned. My very first webinar that I did, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and it was probably the toughest webinar I did because it was the first one I did. And I put a lot of time into it. I had my team help me with it, and nobody showed up. Nobody. And that could have been devastating. And I could have said, well, I'm not going to do it ever again. But what I did is I took that and went, okay, let's look at what didn't work and why it didn't work, because there are clues here that I can fix for next time, right? And then every webinar I did after that got bigger and better and more profitable. But it didn't happen overnight. So I was willing to continue to risk that, right? So failing in your business is inevitable on the way to success. And so when you can have that really strong confidence in yourself to go, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Maybe I'll lose my money. Maybe no one will show up. Maybe my husband will get mad at me. Maybe people think I'm crazy. And so what? If that happens, I can handle it. What's the next step? And that's where the personal growth really comes in, to getting that level of confidence. When I work with my clients, and we're doing this next year in our mastery program, is we're spending a lot of time on personal growth and working on a lot of those triggers, like the emotional triggers, the subconscious triggers that will hold people stuck where they are, because that's the piece that when we can balance that and remove some of those obstacles, where entrepreneurs just shoot forward. So your homework today is to really think about something that you're facing in your business, a decision that will carry you forward, and ask yourself what's holding you back. Now, we've looked at this a couple of times over this week, but I want you to look at it from the perspective of what's holding you back from a risk point of view. What's the risk? What are you afraid of risking? And then what's the worst case scenario and what's the best case scenario, right? Because, when we look at, take something like the stock market, they always say the most riskiest stocks, you can either lose it all or make millions, right? So what are you risking? So what's the best case? What's the worst case? So what does the best case get you, right? And how does that make your life better? And then look at the worst case scenario and say, okay, if this happened, what would I do? And how can I believe in myself to know that I can overcome this or take a different decision, or which way I would go? It's that willingness to take a risk that is going to make the difference between you having a 2018 that's exactly the same or worse than 2017, or one that catapults you forward. And knowing that the first failure along the way is not indicative of how it's going to be. That's why we want to look at what could happen, because then it's like, okay, then what do I do with that? Do I sit and cry, or do I look at what I can learn from that? I think of a friend of mine a few years ago. She had started a home party business, and her very first home party, and this was really interesting to me, she made actually quite a significant amount of sales. It was quite a bit. So she made, I think on those things they make like 25 or 30% commission. I don't quite know what it was, but she made quite a few $100s off of it from all the people that bought from her, but nobody showed up to the party. And so she stopped doing the business because that in her mind was a failure. She failed, she couldn't do it. And me as a business coach and as a businesswoman and as somebody who is always looking to solve a problem, because I believe everything can be solved, I said, well, let's unpack this. I mean, you made a whole lot of money without having to talk to anybody. I think that's pretty cool, right? But she didn't see that. All she saw was nobody showed up. And that risk for her was too much to continue this business that was making her money. So when you look at it from that perspective, it seems kind of silly, right? And it looks, like on paper, it looks silly. You made money and you quit because you thought you failed. But the truth is, it was so deep and personal for her. It was a lot more complicated than that, right? It really hurt. And that risk of people not showing up was too great and too painful for her to do it again. So you want to be thinking about all the things that could be showing up as a risk. And then lay it out on paper like that and ask yourself, okay, if nobody showed up, like nobody showed up on my webinar, what am I going to do? If I invest money in a marketing campaign and it doesn't work, I mean, what's the next step? Do you throw away your marketing, or do you look at why it didn't work? If you invest in the next things you need in your business, what's the worst that can happen? If you're getting the mentoring you need, and that's a massive investment. And I know that's one a lot of people are afraid to invest in, but then you got to ask yourself, do I trust myself that I'm going to do the work, that I'm going to make this investment pay off? If you're looking at hiring a team member, what's the worst that could happen if you don't hire that team member? And what's the worst that can happen if you do hire that team member? Entrepreneurs worry that they'll have enough money to pay them, or that they'll make a mistake, or, go through all of these things, because I'm sure there's something that we all are facing right now. Everybody has something they're facing that they haven't made the decision to move forward with because there's a risk involved. And identify what that risk is. And then ask yourself if that risk if avoiding that risk is worth your freedom. Is avoiding that risk worth staying exactly where you are? Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to stay exactly where you are. And ask yourself that. And only you can answer that question. And if it's not, then ask yourself what you're going to do about it. And if you want me to help you with that, go to talktonafissa.com, get on my calendar, and we'll have a quick chat and see what we can do to help you move forward through that risk. So have a great Thursday. Make sure to, like I said, let me know who you are. Tell me below. If you can think of what that risk is and you want to share it, I'd love to hear it. I'll answer you here as well. And keep an eye out today, because our new Living Forward episode is going to be released in a couple of hours. And that's all about how to manage overwhelm. And I have a video training that you can access after the video on how to manage your calendar and how we do it here. Bye, everybody.